Hi everyone, so today I'll finally share my Sqwiggle Pour Soap Challenge Club submission, which amazingly resulted in me winning second place in the experience category of the soap challenge this month. So for anyone watching who voted for my submission, thank you so much. I really did not expect this and really appreciate everyone voting. But let me show you how I got to my finished soap and my submission. This is my second try for the challenge, and here you can see what I created first time round. As you can see, the detail came out pretty nicely, and was pretty pleased with it. There were just a few issues that I'll mention as we go along. So today I have chosen a slightly smaller mold. We need to use a slab mold, and as I don't have small enough here for my challenges, I used a small box instead and just lined it with greaseproof paper. Today's box is also not as high as yesterday's. You can see the comparison I've got here. So yesterday's was higher, and that in itself caused a little bit more problems because it was harder to pour with the squeeze bottles. When I say pour, actually to squeeze through those squeeze bottles because the border was just too high. So this time round I just cut it lower so I didn't have those problems. So this one here is the squeeze bottle that I'm using. As you can see, with today's mold I can get down to the bottom easily, which isn't possible when the rim is just too high. So this is my much improved, I hope, mold for today's challenge. The bottom of this box isn't completely even, I'm completely aware of that, but I just need to make sure I do a little bit of planing as I finish my soaps right at the end. These are the two squeeze bottles that I'll be using, and as you can see I've cut off these bits here. In yesterday's attempt they were just dangling around and they were just in my way, causing a bit of extra unnecessary stress. Also, can you see those tops here? Now these have got a good opening. Yesterday I used the original one, I didn't cut them open further and it was just really thin. You will see that in a second here. This is the original bottle and the opening is just tiny. Now I think even with the really runniest soap it just doesn't quite work when you've got two different colours supposed to come through. It just gets squeezed together too much. So today I just cut these open. So I've got these two squeeze bottles and I'll be mixing the two colours here. In one of the bottles, I've got a really vibrant purple and a beautiful turquoise, and these colours created this lovely pattern here. You can see that came up really nicely. And the colours that I'm using are Iridescent Green from Mica Moma, and which are these month's sponsors, and the Neon Purple from Aurora Dice. I hope I'm saying that right. And for the other bottle, I'm using the lovely gold as well as a berry purple. And the colour pattern created are these ones here. The colours are Blackberry and Golden Shimmer, both from Mica Moma. The way I chose my colours is by using simple little samples of all my micas that I'd made ages ago. And so I just keep those little swatches there. And I still need to share a video about that here at some stage. Doing it that way will mean I always have really good examples and I know exactly what my actual colours will look like once the soap has saponified. So here you can see that as well as a really good representation of my actual finished soap in the end. So let's get started. I'm following the advice from Lisa Cunningham from I Dream in Soap. If you haven't checked out her YouTube channel, you really should. She has got so many videos, so much good advice, such clear instructions. It's a really good channel to check out. She was our tutor for this month's soap challenge and she gave us a brilliant tutorial with lots of good advice. So here are my melted oils and lye already combined at a very light trace. I've already dissolved my micas in a small amount of oils and I'm now adding about a quarter to each of my colours. I'm avoiding using the stick blender or much whisking in general, just to make sure that my batter stays a really thin trace and doesn't thicken up on me too quickly. Now right at the end I did quickly weigh out my individual containers just to make sure I have roughly the same amount in each one of the containers, but it didn't matter too much if there was slightly more in one of them than the other. And now I'm just carefully mixing the lovely colours into my oils, and you can already see that these colours will turn out beautifully. Of course, just how vibrant the colours turn out depends on a few things. First of all, the quality of your micas you're using. Now, Mica Moma is a perfect company to use here. They've got really good colours. Secondly, it depends on how much you're adding, of course. Thirdly, it depends on whether you see pop, so whether you stick your finished product in the oven to help it go through gel phase. And finally, it also depends on your fragrance oil. Depending on the fragrance oil you're using, it can discolor your soap, and that obviously ultimately has an impact on the final look. So now here we have the 4 lovely colours. You can see me just blending that final one in nicely, and I'm just after this adding my fragrance oil. This time I'm using the lime candy, and the reason for this is that I knew that that fragrance oil would not accelerate trace, which for this particular challenge would have been horrific, and also I knew it was not discoloring my colors, which again, if it all turned brown, especially my gold turned dark brown, there would be no use at all. Right, let's get started with the first bottle. I'm just giving the colours a quick stir here before beginning, just to make sure everything's mixed in nicely, the oils are mixed well together and nothing's settled in terms of the colours or anything's left at the bottom. Trace seems to be just right, even though the turquoise is slightly thicker trace here. Now, for this particular technique, speed is of essence because we just don't want to wait too long. It takes a while to fill up these bottles, and obviously one bottle isn't enough. It has to be refilled a second time round, so we really have to be moving fastly here now. If you pour into these bottles too fast, however, it will just cause muddling up of the colours, and then ultimately you end up with no pretty design. Similarly, you don't want to have too thick layers of each colour, because again, otherwise you're not ending up with a nice design here. So being relatively swift but not too fast, having lots of layers but not taking too much time, there are lots of little elements here to bear in mind to just get it right. At the moment, I'm happy. Trace is thickening up, as you can see here right now with this turquoise, but at the moment it is just about right. So I'm just literally taking them in turns, trying to make the layers not too thick, and working as swiftly as I can without making too much of a mess all the way up to the top. As you probably noticed, I sped up the video a little bit for you here. I just thought you've probably seen the process. You don't need to watch through the entire process in normal speed. Just want to show you quickly the layering in this first bottle here. There we are. Before moving on to the second bottle. Now, as you can see, the trace here has thickened more already, but it is still good. Again, I am speeding up the video here for you so you can just see, this faster motion, how the layering happened in this bottle here. As Lisa recommended, I did stir all the 4 containers frequently, just every now and then, just to give them a little bit more of movement and make sure they stay fluid a little bit longer. And again, just a quick clean up here, and then let me show you the second bottle. Here's our mold first. Now, the layering in that second bottle looked really quite beautiful. I'm really happy with that. I mean, just look at it. Here we are. But also the one from the first one, I'm actually quite happy with how they look at the moment, and I just hope that they stay like this and create beautiful designs finally in my mold today. So here's the mold. It is my self-constructed little slab mold. You can see I'm holding the bottle upright as much as possible, and now you can see why it is so important to be able to reach the bottom of that mold easily and not to have too much of a high border. And now it's time to get squiggling. So the name comes from the squeeze and the wiggle. So the idea is that each bottle gets a row of squiggles, left-right motions, whichever pattern we chose to do, and use each bottle in turn. Now, most people, like I did, lines, but anything was possible as long as we were essentially squiggling. It isn't a fast process. You literally need to go row by row and then layer by layer. And you also want to make sure that you finish on a complete layer and not halfway for obvious reasons. Keeping the bottle upright really was important, as well as making sure you didn't shake each bottle too much. You didn't want to keep moving them from an upright position to the upside down position. So I simply held them in my hand and just swapped them over every time I needed to change over, and just not standing them upright at all between changes. Trace again is really important here. In my first attempt, my trace was too thick and the bottle opening was too narrow. So that combination really wasn't good. I had to squeeze very hard, resulting at one point in the bottle top literally to pop off and the whole mix of that bottle literally falling into my mold in one big blob. That clearly wasn't a nice squiggling design. It happened right at the start, so you can't see it in the finished design. But still, it just wasn't quite right for me. Now, the opposite, too thin trace, in contrast, really doesn't work either. You would just end up with a muddled colour and no nice pattern. In case you're wondering, of course, here I'm speeding up the video again. I wish it was that fast. Okay, anyway, so here, seeing these designs, seeing the nice patterns developing, I was actually really quite happy with my progress. So after my bottles were finished the first time round, I gave the mix a good whack here, just making sure I release any air bubbles and just even it all out a little bit. And then I refilled. Here you can see I'm just whacking it a little bit. It doesn't destroy the design. Trace is thick enough here, but just wanted to make sure that any kind of air bubbles come out. And then I quickly refilled that bottle for the second time round, whatever I had left, to finish off my design. Like I said, I wanted to make sure I finish on a whole layer. You will see here a bit of a close-up. If you want to see it from a slightly different angle, I've uploaded that to a reel on my Instagram, SoKindUK, so you can have a quick look at that from there as well. So when I was finished with that design, I literally just, again, gave it a bit of a whack, just making sure that there were no air bubbles in the design. Because the trace is thick enough here, it really just didn't have an impact on the design, as in it didn't ruin the look of it, as you can see here. And then I put it in the oven just to help the colours really come out through gel phase. So all in all, I really did actually enjoy this process here. It was stressful in the beginning. It's not the easiest design to do, but it's something that really helps you learn more about your trace and really get to know your soaps. I would definitely recommend this as a technique just to really improve your own skills here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm making sure I'm going to upload my other promised videos as soon as possible. Thank you. Bye.